You know, at Tax Rep, we only accept sponsors of products we actually use. And the two items you need to run your practice is Tax Help Software and ENQ. Tax Help Software will enable you to automate your transcript downloads, calculate your statutes, the expiration dates accurately, look for penalty abatement opportunities, and complete the resolution program and forms efficiently and accurately. Just go to taxhelpsoftware.com and use promo code TAXREPTRIAL for a 2-week free trial. And when you love it and you want to buy it, use TAXREP10, all caps, one word, and save 10% off your purchase. Need to call the IRS? Use ENQ and shave a ton of time off your hold. And we all know the hold times with the IRS seem to just get worse and worse and worse. By using ENQ, you can get through to a human being and help your clients get their case resolved. You can try ENQ now, getting 200 minutes for $19.95. So for under $20, you'll get 200 minutes to try ENQ. And trust me, it'll change the way you deal with the IRS. Just go to callenq.com/TRN and never spend a lot of time on hold with the IRS ever again. With IRS cases surging, it's time to put the pedal to the metal and jack up your marketing efforts. If you want more clients and want to add that 100,000 to your bottom line and make 2021 the last tax season you ever have to work, then get out and grab your listing on Tax Rep Directory. Go to taxrepdirectory.com. It is where the real tax pros are all listed and where clients can find them. All right. Go to taxrepdirectory.com, claim your listing, build out your profile, and start bringing in more clients, increasing your bottom line today. So the phone rings from a prospective client who needs help. Now you need to close them. How do you do this? Right? And this was one of my biggest frustrations. We get so many, inquiries and then following up. Well, working with our friends at Rapid Funnel, we created the Tax Rep app. Okay. And what it will do is automate all of that for you. Okay, you will have IRS resources at your fingertips, the numbers you need, the IRS allowable standard tables. If you're meeting with clients, it'll all be right then and there. You can pull it up, show them, walk them through it, and get them closed. But for those people who have made an inquiry, instead of you having to follow up, the app will do it for you. We've built out a marketing drip campaign on everything from non-filers to audits, payroll taxes, innocent spouse case, offers and compromise, and just routine collection cases. And it will continue to follow up with that client where they can book their consult and even pay for the consultation right through the app. All right. So go to taxrepllc.com/app, use group code TRN, as in Tax Rep Network, set up the app and watch this transform your practice. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening in to this week's Tax Rep Network podcast. Joining me is the Roger Nemeth from Tax Help Software. Roger, thanks for taking the time to do this.
Hey, absolutely. I love doing these.
Listen, and I thought we'd get Roger back because we have a lot going on. Tax Mentor is growing. I want to talk about that. The adjustments to the Tax Help Software program, want to talk about that. Roger and I will be doing a 2-day workshop in Las Vegas live if you're interested. There are a handful of seats left for that. That is December 13th and 14th at the Sun Coast. Just a lot going on. So, Roger, if you can, tell people what Tax Mentor is.
So Tax Mentor is basically, the best way to put it is, let me start with Tax Help Software. So Tax Help Software is the transcript software that's been around for over 10 years. It created a new software category that hadn't existed before, which is the analysis of IRS transcripts that had never been done before. And pursuant to that, I became a subject matter expert on a lot of internal e-service kind of things and kind of the onboarding process with transcripts. And over time, I started to educate people, and I would speak for various organizations out there. And last year, it became apparent that I was doing as much speaking as I was developing. And the problem you get into when you run a company is you hate to lump 20 different things under one entity. So I basically spun up Tax Mentor and I looked for a partner who had time. Eric obviously doesn't have any time for that. And what I wanted was basically focusing our education on our own. I was speaking for a lot of different people. For those of you that don't know, sometimes speakers, I was surprised to find out how little a lot of speakers make that go out and speak and travel the country. And it wasn't so much that I was looking for money, but it was our next phase of the business to start doing something organized and stick to our space, which is basically onboarding through the 433 process. I didn't want to go beyond that. I have some collections experience, but my core competency has always been the transcripts and onboarding and process and procedures. And that's kind of where we're staying with. Found Catherine O'Connor is a tax attorney I started working with a little less than 10 years ago at one of the big resolution companies. She was new. They were incorporating my software. She is one of the very first users of Tax Help software, the software product, and has probably evaluated more cases through it than any person on the planet. There may be a couple others out there that have done more, but she specialized in high volume and payroll cases. And she agreed to come on and partner with me with Tax Mentor. And the way we see Tax Mentor is a supplement to memberships like Eric offers. And what we do is, because I would speak for Eric and I always speak on transcripts, and Eric knows transcripts, but Eric's talents lie in optimizing a case.
It's, you know what it is? I know enough about transcripts to be dangerous. But, you know, Roger, what happens is we do get members that say, Eric, what about this code? And what does this mean? And, you know, or I got the Tax Help software report and I need help understanding what exactly has gone on. You know, whereas normally I would just send it to you and say, hey, Roger, what's going on with this? The general public doesn't get to do that. And Tax Mentor, I think, closes that gap.
Yeah, and absolutely. And then pursuant to the education that we're now doing through Tax Mentor, you know, the event in Las Vegas that we've partnered with Eric on, and some of the other things, what we realized was the reports are very detailed, but people wanted to know what to do with that information, whether they're new to the industry or they're seeing something that might be more complicated than they're expected. So what Tax Mentor has done is taken the Tax Help software report, and we offer an enhanced consultation report where Catherine and or we don't always look at the same case. Sometimes it's in one of our wheelhouses and the other, but by majority, Catherine is the one doing this. We analyze that report for you, and we return to you basically the game plan of how we would work the case and what we see in the report. And we call it a consultation report. And the way it works is you download the transcripts through whatever method you want. Most people use Tax Help software, but it'll work any way you get transcripts on your computer. You then upload them to us, and prior to upload on your computer, you answer a quick interview about assets and, you know, values the house through Zillow. It's a neat little automated process, but it extracts all the personal information from the transcripts, uploads it to us at Tax Mentor. We don't care what somebody's name is. We just look at the data and say, this is how we would handle this case. And we give you a collectability, kind of a score, or, you know, hey, it doesn't look like this person's an OIC candidate because they've got $200,000 of equity and, you know, some retirement funds. So it's that next step of how should I work the case? And people have really jumped on board. We've got a couple of larger entities with payroll costs going through the roof. It is hard to hire an enrolled agent to do your onboarding. You're looking at some places $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 for a newer enrolled agent in some parts of the country. And what we're finding is people are starting to come to us and looking at us to do their onboarding for them. They would have an employee that gets the transcripts, gets the power of attorney or 8821, and then let us do the onboard analysis at a price point that's less than $50 per consultation. And that's really taken off at this point. We've got some neat automations coming up where if Eric calls me and says, hey, I want to do a case study for my members on an OIC with a 433D or something, or, you know, whatever he's working on, I would be able to go into our library, find one that's already redacted, and hand him real transcripts to train on. And that's what we're now evolving into, where a lot of people that do a lot of training use the same 6 cases for a decade, or the same 7 cases.
Right.
Where we're taking it next level is every time I do something, you may see some core competency classes. Like I have one 433 that we're going to be doing next year that I've kind of done in the past. I call it the kitchen sink 433, where it's literally every field on a 433 AOIC is completed. That's not a real case. That's just a way to show you how you put in life insurance policies and things like that. So
Right.
it's just taking it to the next level. And with payroll going through the roof, I think this is going to be the next way to do tax resolution.
And I got to tell you what it does a number of things. One is it really covers that gap in the run up to where really Tax Rep Network takes over. Because what we're doing is we're doing the consult on the 433, on the negotiation, on the appeal of the offer and all that stuff. We don't tend to dive into the onboarding and transcript stuff. It's sort of, hey, we use tax help software, we get the information, and then we run with it. And so you've got Tax Mentor closing that gap. And on the marketing side, we rolled out the Tax Rep app, which now automates a drip campaign to anytime you get a lead. As well as we've created a survey, Roger. I got to show you this when we get together, where you can send out a survey even through social media, get people to say, yeah, here is what I think the biggest issue is, and here's what I think, the best way to resolve it is. And from those leads, you effectively begin a drip campaign that's automated. You don't need staff to do that. You don't need anyone else to do that. And you can then continue and close those people. So the world for tax resolution professionals, I think, is getting, I would say, smaller, but it's not smaller. It's getting more manageable because finding good people, and as you said, with the overhead, it's expensive.
Yeah, and I'll throw one other thing out there. I've got all 10 of the largest resolution companies use us. Some of the biggest software names out there use us. I mean, we're out there and integrated in society. And I can't tell you how many times this has happened where we've talked to somebody at a medium-sized office that's an employee and they use our product. They're the one using it day to day. They're the person at the office doing a brunt of the work. Their name's not on the door, but all of a sudden we'll get a call from the boss going, hey, John Smith's no longer with us. And at the same time, the following day, I'll get a call from John Smith going, hey, I need my own tax help software license. I'm no longer with my CPA firm, my EA firm. People are realizing now when they get to a certain level of competence, they are going out on their own. And I think the future of this industry, like Eric said with marketing, is it's going to be less employees and more automated processes in the resolution space. That's where this is heading. And it's got to have to be streamlined. The cost of labor, right now in Tallahassee, we have an Amazon warehouse being built. Our local wages, now everybody you talk to here, I interviewed a college kid the other day and I said, hey, I'll match whatever you're making right now. He worked at Bass Pro Shops. Bass Pro Shops is paying a part-time college kid $15.50 an hour in Tallahassee. And I know what everybody's thinking. Wow, some people out there, that's the way wages are. They've been undervalued. But I'm sorry, we didn't go from $7 to $8 for a college kid working a part-time job to almost $30,000 a year with very little training and anything like that. It's the new dynamic. The entry-level jobs are pushing the wages up, and to be profitable, you have to automate.
And here's what's going to happen. And this is, I don't want to get political, but we can keep upping that minimum. What it does is it's going to force companies to automate. I went to a conference at NYU a number of years ago that talked about the future state. It was called the Future State of the Digital Workforce. And they were arguing that the world is going to become LinkedIn, that eventually, let's say we get really, really busy. All right. And by the way, Roger, this is already happening. I got a number of my platinum tax rep members, and a platinum tax rep member, it's a mastermind group for 6 months is what it is. It's not like a different real level of membership. It says this is the mastermind group. They have grown to the point where they're like, I can't find people. I said, go out into the forum and say, hey, tax rep members, does anyone have capacity to help me? And they did. They're getting the work done with other members. Are we going to get to the point where I can automate with Tax Mentor the transcript analysis? I can automate the marketing effort through the app. All right. I can bring to bear as much really workforce as I need through the network. I mean, I can go out and there are 400 professionals I've trained who do this all over the country and all over the world. We have 2 people in France. We have 1 in Australia. I have 1 in Guam. And we can go out and find people who can do the work. So and the argument being is, why do I need a 9,500 square foot office? Why do I need all the overhead? Why do I actually need the employees? Are we going to become a world of independent contractors? About a year and a half ago, I had Joe Woodard on the podcast. You know Joe, and
Yes.
we were talking about the automation of bookkeeping that Intuit was rolling out. And he was telling me, bookkeepers are now, the certified, QuickBooks, whatever they are, certified, bookkeepers are all sort of freaking out. They're competing with us. And I said to Joe, I'm like, well, they're not competing with you. If you can automate and say, hey, wait a minute, rather than doing 30 clients, I can do 300 clients with the staff that I have. So either you could reduce your staff, or you could punch above your weight because of the automation, right? If you could automate the bookkeeping, so instead of a bookkeeper having to do the books, you had one bookkeeper reviewing 10 sets of books. You can now you can escalate your business vertically. You can increase your business dramatically, exponentially, because of the automation. So
and you become a monitor of processes as opposed to a doer.
Exactly.
Anybody can type data into something, if that makes sense.
Right. No, I mean, what I ended up becoming as I trained my staff, I'm really now more a marketer. Yes, I do represent the clients at hearings and other stuff, but a big chunk of my time is spent on literally the marketing and bringing in those leads for the firm to keep 23 people busy. Versus where I would sit in my office and I would grind away and try to get my marketing done at night and on the weekends. Right? It's flipped because I can just get way more done remember, when I started, you weren't around doing tax help software. Tax help software is a recent 10-year thing. Before then, I used to do this shit by hand, right? We'd get the transcripts and I'd put it in Excel, and I would be doing year by year, kind of flowing it out in Excel to figure out as how many, when would these years start dropping off? You fixed all that. All right. Now, by the way, what is new with the software? Because I know you've been working a lot on the CSED stuff.
So the two biggest things that we've been working on is I'll throw the first major project out and then step into the CSEDs, which was a game changer, but it was a little bit easier to do. We've been working on our CP 2000 comparison tool, which compares the wage and income to the return transcript. So we can give you CP 2000 results up to a year before the IRS does the comparison. It'll eliminate the problem that will exist later. You can eliminate penalties by monitoring. Well, what we've started to upgrade is go next level. And, we've had a list of false positives that have been hard to see the flow. We're never going to be able to detect every underreporter scenario automated because of the way the IRS flows the forms. Cancellation of debt is one that we basically have to pop up and say, hey, if they're not insolvent, or filled out the insolvency worksheet, because it's not on the transcript. So it's basically, hey, it's underreported, but you need to still do a little bit more investigation. But it has been a wonderful addition. Big CPA firms, one of the big New York firms had bought us, and during the pilot, we discovered $1.5 million of underreported income. And they all thought it was an error. And finally, somebody said, let's call the client. And the client's response was, oh, was that taxable? Well, of course it was taxable. I don't know what it was specifically, but it popped up. They saved them, they think, over $100,000 in penalties and interest.
Yeah. And so for people listening to this, Roger, what Roger's talking about is, because it's totally cool. If the software can then, you file the return, when it hits the system, the software can then say, hey, wait a minute. There's a mismatch here. Now, the IRS system will eventually do that. If you catch that and you do a qualified amended return where you amend the return before the IRS contacts you, you avoid the penalties. And an accuracy penalty at 20% is big.
Yes. And a caveat on that, depending on how late it's filed, there might still be a little bit of a failure to file and possibly a failure to pay, but they're 0.5% per month. So if you catch it within a month, it's minuscule. It's the accuracy related one is the one that you'll save most of the time on, because if you self-report it, the challenge is, hey, it was a mistake. We picked it up during standard operating procedures and we fixed it.
Right.
And it's been just this wonderful tool. So what we're basically do is going into the next region of, we're not just reactive to tax problems. We're now getting into the preventative phase of post-filing compliance.
And listen, that's how we've created an annuity stream. About 2 years ago, so what would happen is, when we close a case, we're revoking the power of attorney, right? I'm done. I don't want to sit and babysit the case and get the junk mail and have to chase someone down. Well, what happens when you do that, when we revoke a power of attorney, for those listening who've never done this, you revoke the power of attorney, they get a letter.
A nasty letter.
Oh, yeah. Well, the letter says, Eric Green, blah, blah, blah. They have revoked their power of attorney and are no longer representing you. So clients flip out. So they start calling the firm saying, whoa, wait a minute. Don't fire me. I'm like, we're not firing you, but I'm not going to sit and babysit this. And what would happen is, we had a client say, well, how much would it cost to just keep it on file? And I said, all right, $500. And we got a new power of attorney. You can go out 3 years past where we are now. And we submitted it. And because of intelligent ordering through Tax Help software, where every night we get an update on anything that's changed, we started monitoring. Well, it was my assistant that said, hey, wait a minute. Should we offer this to everybody? Well, listen, about 3 years on now, you got 150 people paying me $500 a year, right? That's a free $75,000 for the firm. Right?
And you are definitely not the only one doing that. That has become a huge revenue source that, for the most part, and you don't say, I'm going to handle the problem as part of that 500.
No,
it's strictly monitoring. Right. So it's basically just the monitoring. And I will throw this out about intelligent ordering. So intelligent ordering has kind of outlived its usefulness in its old format. The way the software was, and I guess this is kind of an important change. I always overlook it because it was a technology piece. So for years, Tax Help software could download one transcript every 15 seconds. It was just a restriction that the IRS had. It was old system and all this. So we were lucky to have people log in and maybe get 12 to 15,000 transcripts in a 24-hour period. The software would run overnight. It would sometimes run over the weekend, but then they'd shut the system down on the weekend and it would fail. And you'd only have some of the transcripts you requested. Intelligent ordering was made so the program would go through and say, hey, you're requesting 250,000 transcripts. Which ones haven't been ordered in the past week? And it would order everything that had been ordered in the past week. Well, the next day it would say, hey, which ones haven't been ordered in the past week? So you didn't have to go through each client to figure out what needed to be pulled. It would do it for you and eventually load balance over a week. We would tell people, depending on the number of clients, run it a minimum of 3 times a week, up to 5 times a week if you're running 250,000 every week. In 18 months ago, and one of the other transcript companies out there is like, oh, only a handful of people got this, and I'll throw it out. Canopy Tax we're like an exclusive provider, and very few people do this. Well, first off, we were the first ones invited into the program because we are the largest transcript downloader, and the IRS knows that. Just for a point of comparison, when the new API launched, a day, our clients are doing 1 million a day. It's kind of an estimate. The IRS has provided some statistics with us. All right, so the capacity had increased with the new API. It was kind of advertised by one of our competitors that they were kind of an exclusive, and there was a couple other people invited. We're definitely part of that process. Tax Help software was the first one invited in because the IRS knows we're the largest. They can track how many transcripts we're going through each one of these entities. The new API has unknown capacity limit. I know there's a limit of how many you can get per hour, but I haven't been able to get there. And what it means is Tax Help software and the rest of everybody went from about 12,000 in a 24-hour period to anywhere from 60 to 100,000 in 1 hour. And that has made it to where if, let's say you have 500 power of attorneys or 8821s on clients and have never used the software before, in just a couple hours, you could go through and download every transcript for all those people. Pursuant to that, we started to improve our report process, where it used to take 30 seconds to process the data and create a report for each client. We're soon going to launch an update where that'll take about 4 to 6 seconds per client to import the data. So we're trying to get the reports as fast as the transcripts. And I think as we go into the end of the year, you're going to see being able to pull upwards of 1 million transcripts a day and have the reports all in one day.
Yeah. And so for people listening to this, who just so you understand, we have software, tax help software, that my assistant can come in the morning, log in and update through intelligent ordering. It will bring down, let's say we have 1,000 clients in there. Within a few hours, it'll update everything. And then it gives us it's almost a dashboard report of the clients who've had something change. That's how we monitor. So I can then contact those clients, say, hey, you're back in collection. You were uncollectible. You're back in collection. We need a $2,500 retainer and we'll get started working on a new 433 for you. Or, gee, they're saying that you defaulted your offer. What the hell happened? All right. Or you've been flagged for an audit or whatever. Right. And so that's that monitoring. That's what we're doing. But I agree, Roger, we've never agreed to, oh, yeah, we'll solve the problem. We're just monitoring for $500. And now the sky is the limit. The more clients I can bring in, because I don't think we've had a client not want to be monitored. When we get to the end and they're relieved, usually they're like, oh, yeah, $500, no problem. It's a no brainer.
So let me throw. So if anybody's ever seen the retail tax or worked in retail tax, there's these audit protection plans where they'll go. I don't think they use the word representation.
They don't.
I have had people that work for these and they're mills. They contract out to people.
Yep.
And what I have been told, this is how crazy it gets. Those companies will not allow their contractors to use tax help software because they say, we haven't vetted it and we don't know if it's secure. All right. That's the first step. I don't have a problem with that. That's up to them. The program's 100% secure. It's no less secure than if you go and use a web browser. My problem with that entire industry is this. They send an enrolled agent or CPA to attend the audit with you. They are specifically not there to represent. These companies have actually told some of the contractors, you are not representing. You are merely going to explain the process to them. It to me is such a
scam.
A scam. There's no other way to put it. If I was called to testify in front of Congress and they asked my opinion, I'd be like, this is 100% scam. And what I'm trying to get to with this is your audit detection product. You're basically offering it for a similar price, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less than some of these retail products. And it's not just retail tax firms doing this. Like with Drake, we can order something. With any of the third-party programs, you can order a protection package. Start looking at the details of what they do. But I've had real people doing these things. I'm like, oh, that's an easy one. Do the first-time abatement. And they're like, we can't do that. We can't render advice. We're basically monitoring a car crash is how it's been described to me. Yep. You sit there or do it remotely now and you're like, well, see, what's happening now is you can't justify your expenses. They think you're supposed to help defend them. And that's not the case. And I just have this huge, horrible feeling about that whole thing because it is falsely representative.
I know somebody who does that. He's an EA. That's what he does. He has become one of my best referral sources because when he gets these cases, he actually tells the client, I'm not there to represent you. I'm only there to guide you through this. And looking at what you have, you need to be represented. I think he must have referred us 12 cases. And he said, well, usually the clients are like, well, then what did I pay for? And he's like, look, you paid for me just to come and consult, but you're going to have some issues here. I think you need someone who can represent you and we can't do it.
Not even consult. I'm here to explain the process to you is how they say it. Yep. They can't even generate a letter that says these expenses are true and correct per the following case law or this position, standard letters that we should all have in our inventory. They're not allowed to even do it. I don't know how people get away with it Circular 230 wise, because I could not sit in an audit and let somebody do something wrong and still keep my credentials as far as I'm aware. It bothers me. So
I agree. So no, I mean, so anyway, if for those of you who are listening to this, if you haven't tried tax help software, you can absolutely go check it out. It is the cornerstone of our practice, the intelligent ordering, the transcripts, as well as it does, Roger, it does our offers and compromise. It does our 433s. It's how we do what we do. And so if you go to, it's taxhelpsoftware.com. All right.
And I've got the link here. I'm going to make, you had an old one and a new one. Let me make sure they get the newer link, because we have a new website. Not that the offer changed, but with this page that we're keeping updated,
Yep.
It's taxhelpsoftware.com/TRN, as in Tax Rep Network, just the letters TRN. So it's taxhelpsoftware.com/TRN, and it's a $250. And this is for new users. If you're an existing user, we have a renewal discount and all of that, but it's a $250 for 6 months, fully loaded executive license with a 45-day tax mentor trial, which is the twice monthly case consultation meetings and open Q&A. But you also get 3 consultations with that. You get, they're not over the phone consultations. We don't do a consultation like Eric. We do the consultation reports. So you actually have a roadmap to the case once you've uploaded it to us. And what we've found is if you're going to do one of your Tax Rep Network consultations with Eric, if you show up and have the tax mentor case report,
Absolutely.
You and Eric aren't talking about, well, what does the transcript say? Your 15 minutes or 20 or 30 minutes, however long the consultation is about how to handle the case. All the ready work has been done. The CSEDs are there. Should you challenge the CSEDs? Is there a possibility of criminal? What's the collectability options here? It's all going to be at Eric's fingertips, and Eric's basically going to be able to just then render his opinion. It basically gets it to where if Eric's staff had given him a real case and you're spending your time on the meat and potatoes, we've had so many people call us about different consultation products, and it was always the same thing. All I end up ever doing is we talk about the transcripts and we never get to the meat and potatoes of the case because the consultation was only 20 minutes. You want to spend time on Eric. What Eric's consultations do is it's not.
First of all, it's not 30 minutes. It's however long it takes, right? The thing about our membership, the thing about Tax Rep is the members, I mean, we're all in. You don't pay for anything else. The books, I mean, I don't want to say for free. It's all part of the membership. Same with the consults. So people ask me, well, how many consults do I get? As many as you need. How long are they? As long as it takes. We have one now. It's a highly complicated offer. One of my folks are doing in Colorado, and she and I have spoken on the phone 3 times in the last week. The thing is, we're there. The reason to join Tax Rep is you're not out hanging doing this by yourself. You've got people behind you who can help you. All right. We've seen it. We've done it. We have sample letters. We have all that stuff. Could you build your own practice and figure it out on your own? Absolutely. I did 22 years ago. But if we can shortcut that and get you to where you need to be, and you need a certain type of letter, we've got it, right? We've already been there. We've done this. This is a penalty abatement letter that works. This is our hobby loss letter that kicks ass, right? We've got all that. And so if you can come in with the tax mentor report, and then we can talk about, okay, in light of what the report is showing, here's the best strategy and here's what we would do. And then you can go do it. When you have questions, you come back and say, hey, here's where I am. Do you agree? Or, hey, what about this? That's not like there's no extra fee. It's just, book a time. Let's get on a Zoom or a phone call. If I can answer it quickly through email, you'll get it probably within an hour. But, it's that what they both do is help with the case, right? It literally Tax Mentor brings them up through the analysis and the onboarding. We're then going to take it and run it through resolution.
And the cases are there. I guess there's 4 phases to a case. One is converting or getting the lead and converting it to an onboarding. That's probably the most important step in this process. I hear from people all the time that are like, well, I paid somebody $20,000 to learn how to get cases, but I was never able to get the case, or I got cases, but now I don't know what to do with them. It's that chicken egg problem, but it's getting the lead and getting the sale. Eric helps you with that. Next is the onboarding process, the power of attorney, the 8821, whichever route you decide to go. You get the data, you accumulate the data, and this phase I always include the analysis, so not just getting the data, but analyzing and coming up with a strategy. The third is the resolution step. So lead to sale, onboarding, the resolution, and where Eric's focused and should be focused with his talents is in all right, how do we handle this case? And then the final phase that everybody kind of doesn't realize there's revenue opportunity on is the end of case, maybe the person bailed on you, maybe they lied to you, and you got to end the resolution. Those tend to be, they need to be done cleanly and correctly, and Eric teaches you that. But what do you do with somebody with a successful resolution? What do you do with the guy that's been non-compliant for 10 years? You get him compliant. He's a revenue opportunity. You either, if you're somebody that does tax returns, you say, hey, look, you're in an offer. In order for me to do this offer, I'm going to charge you either a monthly fee over the next 3 years, or I'm going to charge you a one-time fee, whatever you want to do. But I have to do your next 3 tax returns or next 5 returns, depending on how much time is left on the CSED. And that's something we'll teach you, that an OIC can close out earlier than the 5 years if the CSED is less.
Right.
And that's a little known fact. It's those kind of little nuances out there. But what it focuses on is generate revenue post case.
Right.
Don't do an offer unless you've rigged it up, but also case monitoring. And that's where.
Yeah. And what we found is we were monitoring for free. Right. And then all of a sudden it was like, hey, wait a minute, why aren't we getting paid for this? All right. And that client said, hey, how much would it cost? And I was also like, that's interesting. No, it's, I did a podcast on this. Now, this is probably going back 3-4 years. I had a client, Roger, that, we end up negotiating. It's a steel company. We end up negotiating into a payment plan. We get it all done. 6 months later, we get all the default notices. Default notices come back, and I call the client. They're like, look, we filed and paid 1 day late. We've already paid the penalty and the interest. Just put us back in the agreement. I call the revenue officer. I call ACS. Nope, it's back out. It's going back out to the field. I called the revenue officer, had it before. He said, yeah, it's going to be back in his inventory. He doesn't have it yet. But no, he won't set them back up. We got to start all over again. Oh, I know. And I'm walking around the office, stupid clients. And Bob Percy, who's now deceased, Bob came out and he said, Eric, we love stupid people. Stupid people are going to pay for your 3 daughters' weddings. They're going to fund your second home. They're going to fund your retirement. Don't think about them as stupid people. Think of them as walking annuities. And that's what they are. There are people that Bob helped multiple times, that I've helped multiple times. And now Amanda is on her second round with this guy. They just keep coming back. And what the monitoring does is effectively, in many ways, it keeps them. We're monitoring them when they have a problem. They're coming to us. In a way, it's, people think of this resolution as kind of a one-off thing. It's not. You have a relationship, and if it goes well, you have a relationship probably for life with some of these people.
People don't go from not filing for 10 years and being a procrastinator to, all right, I'm back normal. How many of us are like, hey, New Year's Day, I'm going to go on a diet. How many of us stick with those diets? It's the same thing. I'm back above normal. I can breathe again. I'm not filing my taxes. I'm caught back up. I got another 5 years before they come after me. Well, the problem is the second time around, they're much faster. So, the funny story. So I talked to a divorce attorney years ago, and he said, I generally don't just have a client for one divorce. I generally have them for 2 or 3. And
Exactly.
it's the same thing. He goes, I send out Christmas gifts every year. And, if you're somebody married to your second spouse, look around birthday and Christmas time to see if they're getting something from their divorce attorney. So I've kind of heard that on a couple different things. So
no. So listen, time is going to run short. I do want to talk about Vegas. So Las Vegas, everyone if you're interested, I think there are about 25 seats left in the room. It is December 13th and 14th, 2 full days. We are going to go from start to finish, and we're doing it. Roger, we agreed. We're doing this as a workshop. We're doing it case-based, versus Eric Green and Roger are going to take turns lecturing. And also joining us on the second day is going to be Michelle Weinstein from The Abundant Accountant, known as the Pitch Queen. Michelle is going to be doing a bit on how to maximize what you're getting paid and how to close the deal. So I think it's going to be a fun 2 days, 16 CPE credits for those of you looking for your CPE. It is at the Suncoast, which I know it's off strip. It's beautiful. It was just redone a couple of years ago. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward
and,
to it.
and I'm looking forward to it. My Bill Nemeth, my father's going to show up. He's actually going to cover, and again, it's case studies. So if you've seen my father's pro se tax court, how does that process work? He is going to actually talk about real cases he's been involved in where the client filed pro se and non-attorneys were able to negotiate with appeals. Right.
Yep.
And he's got a class that's out there that he's offered. I think maybe it's CPA Academy. We may have it on our website. I don't know if that one's up yet. I haven't seen it recently, but he does do it. He's going to actually talk about the cases and how you can leverage. So if a client needs to go to tax court, they file it. Can't help them. Just so we're clear, you can't help them file their petition if you're not an attorney or U.S. tax court. But if they file on their own, you as an enrolled agent or a CPA can go to appeals process. And that's where most of these are worked out. Well, so he's actually going to give you the examples of the results of that.
Yeah, no, exactly. And again, for those folks listening, if you file in tax court and you have not been to appeals, they are going to send it to appeals because the goal is to try to get it settled. And you with your 2848 can represent them at appeals. And Roger, I'll even tell you, even if they've been to appeals and they file in tax court pro se, IRS counsel with the 2848 will still talk to the EA and CPA because they want to get it resolved. If they can resolve these cases, they can't possibly try all the cases, and they don't want to.
Well, if you take a $10,000 case in front of a tax court judge, my understanding is they're like, why is this here? Under a certain dollar amount, it's like, why are you in front of me? Why has this not been negotiated out? Now, if the state says, hey, we offer $2,000, or the prosecutor's like, oh, we did offer $2,000, and they said, pound sand, we want zero. The judges know this, whether or not it's an open court or not. They know, oh, you're being hard-headed. You're going to get a little punishment. I used to be a police officer, and it's like traffic court. If you're going to contest it, it better be a reason and not just, I don't think this is fair, because he will hammer you with court fees is what happens. You pay more than the original ticket. So it's definitely a process, and I'm looking forward to, I've heard all the stories, but if you haven't, these are the little nuggets out there that are out there. And I would say the pro se tax court process is out there. Very few people touch on it because there's a lot of people that are like, oh, it's practicing law without a license. It can be, but you have to follow a set of rules. And, the client has to decide they want to file on their own. But it's going to be a wonderful option for your toolbox if you so choose. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, but it's going to be 2 days. We got Roger, Mr. Bill, me, and Michelle. I think it's, oh, by the way, Clemens, who does a lot of our web work and all of that and does our website. A lot of my members like using Clemens because look, Clemens could teach the offer class. I mean, he's listened to it for 10 years, right? I mean, so he knows this stuff now almost as much. I told him, I said, you want to go get your EA? All right, listen, I got to cut this off, but listen, Roger, thanks a lot for joining us. And everyone, thanks for listening. And we'll talk next week, and hopefully we'll see you all in Vegas.